Five Nights at Freddy's has had some absolute bangers into this. But today isn't about the past, it's about the future. Specifically, my dream future. The FNAF game I would most want to see and play. And today, I'm gonna pitch it to the world. So stick around and find out the secrets lying deep below Freddy Fazland. Ooh! So if you saw my Rune retrospective, and if you haven't, then go do that after this video, of course, you would know I had a segment where I discussed some theories and ideas for what could come next for the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. I didn't go too in-depth into anything there, though, and since then I've been having a ton of ideas for my dream FNAF game. Maybe not necessarily what is most realistic, but what it is I would love to see myself. So for today, that's what we're gonna do. So strap yourselves into the Freddy chair, because we're gonna be creating our very own big-budget AAA Five Nights at Freddy's video game. Dear God help us. So the first thing to figure out is, what kind of game do we want? Well, this was something I vaguely mentioned in my Ruin video, but I would love to see a combination of the style seen in Security Breach and Ruin. So my pitch for that is a large open area, the setting of which I will reveal here in a sec, assuming the thumbnail hasn't already. But trust me, it's perfect for this, and it will essentially function as a hub of sorts. I want it to play almost like a 3D Metroid game. Lots of areas you can't get to yet, but that you might be able to eventually. Meanwhile, behind a lot of these areas awaits a more linear section of gameplay for each major set piece. The main area of the park will primarily push you forwards, but in these moments you'll also be free to explore the park at your own leisure and find collectibles and power-ups and all that. There will be a section in the last few chapters, however, where you will be set entirely on course into the story, however, so get your exploration fix in early. In each of these set-piece areas, you unlock something that allows you to not only explore the already unlocked portions of the map for more secrets, upgrades, and collectibles, but also a new major area. But then this raises the question, what would be the perfect hub area? Well, get ready for this. Step up guys, gals, and non-binary pals. One and all to the entrance to the Faz World Entertainment Complex. A massive sprawling theme park / circus themed around your favorite pizzeria chain turned mega entertainment monopoly. And I already spelled in the thumbnail, didn't I? Well, whatever, it's a long overdue set. For this, I'm imagining a continuation of Fazbear Entertainment as seen in Security Breach. I picture them having a very strong hold in entertainment, having branched out into movies, games, malls, and theme parks. Sure, it's a little unrealistic at this scale, but then again, so is Security Breach at times. So for this game, I want to fully embrace the sci-fi elements that let us go ham, while not abandoning the thrills and terrors of the franchise. Because while we are at a popular theme park, we're also here at night. Maybe we get locked in, these massive walls meant to keep people out, and perhaps even something else in. I would love to have an open skybox over most of the location. Trees and other outdoor life would really help distinguish this location from the Pizzaplex and other FNAF games in the past, as well as plenty of great set pieces being visible from the start of the game. See that big Foxy-themed roller coaster over there? You better believe we have to ride down that battling a maddened Big Top Roxy. Thrilling, exciting, and terrifying is the theme at play. But what's that? Big Top Roxy? Well, perhaps I should go in depth on some of the characters at play. Every location needs its cast of characters, and this game is no different. First, we have our main band, the Big Top Band, sort of a circus-themed group inspired partially by these skins from the AR game. We've got Big Top Freddy, who leads the band, very similar to Glamrock Freddy in that he feels like the glue that holds everyone else together, although he does still take the role of an antagonist here, this time with the intentions of getting rid of us one way or another. So unlike Glamrock Freddy, he's not your friend. While everyone else is out hunting for us, Freddy stays cooped up in his main base of operations in the auditorium, waiting for us like a true final boss. Of sorts. Big Top Bonnie makes his electrifying return to a mainline franchise game, this time being the right-hand man to Freddy. Perhaps a bit harsher and very loyal, always seeing to it that Freddy's orders make it out to the rest of the band. He also serves as a proper lead-up mini-boss of sorts to Freddy himself. Big Top Roxy, the ever-popular choice amongst thrill-seeking kids. Similar to Roxy from Security Breach, she can be very hot-tempered, maybe more so than her previous counterpart, combining some elements of Monty in there for good measure. When she's the threat of a segment, you know you're in trouble, as with her advanced hearing, she might be able to hear your footsteps from afar and attempt to track you that way. Think similar to the Emmys from Metroid Dread. Big Top Mr. Hippo. Big Top Mr. Hippo, finally joining the main band. Long overdue. On the surface looking very calm and collected like the Mr. Hippo we know, deep down he might actually be very competitive, having just got the promotion to lead singer over Chica. He's the newbie on the team, and the one who feels the most pressure to prove himself. Despite this, he's not downright evil. Maybe he ends up swapping sides to help us halfway through? And yeah, I chose Mr. Hippo because I thought he was funny. Got a problem with that? And as the last member of the main band, DJ Music Man. After the Pizzaplex was shut down, he was deemed too expensive to just abandon, so they relocated him to this new location as well, with a fresh new paint job. Unlike the other characters who are entirely new incarnations of the cast of characters we know, this version is the exact same one we met there, meaning a lot of similarities in personality carry over, making him a rather chill dude, at least until his security mode is activated, which on a grand scale can make him very dangerous. But even with this band, we're still missing some. I mean, you can't have a FNAF game without a Foxy, can you? Yeah, those don't count. Well, similar to Glamrock Bonnie being replaced, the same thing happened to Big Top Foxy with Big Top Roxy. The two were once packaged as a sibling duo, but after an incident in the park some time ago, Foxy was removed from the band and locked away deep in the park. But with the events of the game, something might just awaken him and cause him to go on a crazed rampage throughout the park, specifically seeking you. He heeds no warnings or orders from Freddy and the band and only seeks to rip and tear. That being said, they might still find a way to use him to their advantage and against you. Aside from this, there are some other characters that would be present throughout, such as Circus Chef Chica. She would also likely receive a segment to herself, but wouldn't be quite as prevalent as the main band. She is also not a part of the band this time around, with Mr. Hippo taking her place as the lead singer, so maybe there could be some sort of conflict between the two. Chica might be more disgruntled with the band. I also imagine maybe she got kicked off the team due to some sort of order from the higher-ups, maybe something due to brand similarity. Think how Chica was always involved with kitchen-related stuff in the last game. Maybe that's something that Fazbear Entertainment really wants to hammer home with her character, or something dumb like that. Either way, this would lead to very low loyalty from Chica towards the Fazbear Entertainment Corporation and the gang as a whole. Okay, so now we need a protagonist. Meet Vanessa. Yup, Vanessa returns as the protagonist. This time with Glamrock Freddy's head intact. Throughout the game, this is where our upgrades will go. Maybe Freddy's head can be attached onto a makeshift endoskeleton of some kind, on top of having this version of Freddy that we build up throughout the game. We also have consistent contact with Gregory, who helps to guide us through via walkie-talkie, so we basically get a trio of characters throughout, albeit Vanessa being the playable version this time. I'd love to see the trio taking in the downtime between main set pieces, perhaps while we're traveling the main hub, similar to how Spider-Man PlayStation 4 always has some kind of dialogue going over top that is perfectly timed with your backtracking across the city to not make it feel like such a slog. This could give some great insight into these characters, what they've been up to, and how Vanessa's doing post-Vanny. But now we've got to talk motive, specifically a storyline to follow. Why are Vanessa and co here? Well, one idea I've got is to just make it a direct sequel to Ruin. It's the most recent game as of making this, so it's kind of a good way to know where to take the franchise. After the Mimic escaped from the underground prison in Ruin, which, yeah, he's definitely escaped. Oh my god, okay. He made his way into the heart of one of the most fortified Fazbear Entertainment locations, filled with animatronics that he can manipulate, let's say, as well as plenty of ways to spy on various guests and to build himself up into something more dangerous. The Mimic's powers are already something to be feared, but if he truly takes after Afton, he might have taken up his axe for tinkering and building, and if he were to apply that to himself, he could make his morphing powers something to truly be feared. So maybe this is why he hides himself away here. This also means that, unlike Security Breach, you have no friends inside this new location, which is why bringing Glamrock Freddy is so important, so that we can keep a similar dynamic to Security Breach with the helper animatronic. Plus, it also makes it feel like more of a direct sequel, something we haven't gotten too much of in the franchise. Even Ruin stars a mostly unique cast of characters. Now, unlike Security Breach, Freddy starts out as just a head in your bag. He can help you hack into some fast tech with Vanessa, likely taking it from there once the doors open, but up until you find that endoskeleton body, he will remain as that, so by the end of the game you will have to build Freddy up into a proper force to be reckoned with. So that should you find the Mimic here, you can attempt to end things once and for all, in a new game mode that I'll flesh out here in a bit, that will be added into the primary loop of exploring and office segments that we've come to know, and hopefully love. Now, one more thing this would contradict is that the ending of Ruin, Gregory says he actively does not want the Mimic to find him, something I think should still be true, even if I don't actually believe this here was Gregory speaking in the elevator. I stated a theory that the Mimic might actually want to kill Gregory in particular, since he's mimicked him before. So that's why Vanessa and Freddy offered to take up the mission instead. We already know that Freddy and Greg aren't okay with just letting something terrible like this happen, given the Vandy ending sparks about due to them wanting to set things straight, and we also know, that's the canon ending. So Maybe Vanessa starts out more hesitant to help, but agrees to do so out of guilt for her Vanny side of stuff. Meanwhile, Gregory's just fully here for it, but has to be kinda pushed back by the others since he's the one in most active danger. Maybe even having to be forced to stay behind by the duo we play as. The goal is to destroy the Mimic once and for all and put a stop to all of this. I also just like the idea of finally being able to play as Vanessa proper, since they tease that a lot for Security Breach, only for it to not be in the game. Plus, I think Freddy and Vanessa could have some fun back and forth throughout, just based off what little we got in Security Breach.
Freddy, you're supposed to be on lockdown.
Vanessa.
Also, side note, while I was looking for a silly clip to put there, I discovered some made, a whole, just 3-minute original FNAF song about the single, one-line exchange. So that's lol. Never saying that again. Aside from this, there's one last thing I want to mention before going through the full game in order of story. In this game, I don't want jump scares to be a final death sentence. Rather, I want there to still be a chance, however slim, to escape. So, how would this work? Well, stealing yet another concept from Metroid Dread, because that game's incredible and you should go play it. Please, I really want Metroid 6. In that game, when you get caught by an Emmy, which are these big, scary robot things, before it kills you, there is a chance to escape. Unlike other enemies, Emmy doesn't damage you, but instead can instant kill you in one hit. This hit happening in a cutscene, similar to a jump scare in FNAF. Although, right before it does, there will be a flash. If you can time a button press at the right time, you can escape the grasp of the Emmy and continue onward. The thing is, when this flash happens, it is completely randomized, and it is super quick. This means that even after getting caught, you're still actively invested in the gameplay, despite it still being very unlikely you'll actually escape. So you still feel that tension, but it also doesn't feel that unfair. It's a good combo. Unlike most FNAF games where people immediately throw down the controller and accept their fate, this way there's an extra layer of tension and possibly relief if you time it right. So I want to bring that idea here. Each jump scare will be a flash, with it getting quicker and less predictable with each encountered animatronic. So let's go through the full story in order of the major set pieces now, so we can really lay out the concept of this game. To start, Vanessa and Freddy have gotten to the park just as it is closed. From here, they immediately set their sights on the nearby endoskeleton facility where Gregory posits they might be able to get Freddy a new body. On the way there, they encounter Mr. Hippo, who immediately sees you for a second. He calls it into Freddy and begins looking for you, leading to your first stealth section. This one's fairly minor, and the flash for Hippo's jump scare will always be at the same time, meaning it is entirely possible to master escaping his jump scare. He's the least violent after all. Eventually, you escape and end up inside the Endo facility. The Endos here function the same as we've seen in Security Breach. Weeping Angels / SCP-173 move when you look away gameplay. Another short section escaping them and getting into the heart of this location nets you a fresh Endo body. A short cutscene of Vanessa tinkering with Freddy's head using some of the nearby junk. And now we have a follower Freddy. Before we can leave, however, one of the bare Endos attacks us, unaffected by the Weeping Angel curse the others have got. This will be a reoccurring type of Endo going forward, that will usually function on fixed paths. But for now, he serves as the tutorial boss to our new section here, I teased a while back. This introduces a new gameplay part that I would introduce here, where we quite literally brawl another animatronic as Freddy. Yeah, it's gonna be frickin' sweet. With us fully switching control over to Freddy. Using a simple 3D beat-em-up formula, we defeat the boss Endo and escape. Using Freddy, we are able to open up a new path that takes us to the main street hub of the theme park. This would also conclude what I guess we can call Chapter 1. From here, we can explore around some, with some banter between the trio keeping us company for long enough to reach our new destination. Now, the trio know the Mimic is being kept somewhere in here, or hiding away, or something. They don't really know why he's here or how, they just know he is. Of course, the biggest thing they don't know would be where exactly in the park he is. So while they need to essentially explore the entire park, they also need to upgrade Freddy beyond just a bare Endo. So they choose to hit up specific parts of the park where they might not only find the Mimic, but also some equipment to upgrade Freddy further. So Gregory sends us off to the kitchens in the food market area of the park in hopes of finding a working voice box somewhere around that area, since Chica will also be present. Given she was an ex-singer of the band, it makes sense she'd have one of the more dynamic voice boxes, and since Mr. Hippo's would be too heavily guarded being up on the main stage, they decide to go for hers, or Chica. In Ruin, it's confirmed that Freddy only ever got the Monty upgrade in this canon, an upgrade left behind in the Pizzaplex along with the rest of his body. This means that this head does not already have this ability, so in search of this, we have also encountered Chica herself. Another stealth section, but I could also see this offering the first proper office section too. For the gameplay here, I would just have it transition to a fully classic style, so you can't move around the office, instead having the cameras and doors, a simple FNAF 1-like setup with Chica and maybe Mr. Hippo joining in again against you. The duo might have some interesting banter during it, fleshing out Chica's status as being removed from the band and her probable anger about that. After we successfully finish this, a distraction of some kind allows us to escape with the voice box. From here, we begin to make our way into the main areas of the park, our goal now being to search all corners. And to start off, we go to the largest roller coaster in the park. Quite the icon. Making our way over there, we encounter Roxy for the first time. I feel her love of go-karting would easily translate to one for roller coasters, so having her guarding this area makes sense. Here we go about finding some kind of plating for Freddy's endoskeleton, specifically backup plating that Roxy might use in case she gets damaged. Upon stealing some, Roxy finds us, initiating a chase scene like those found in Ruin. She chases us into a corner, and with no other options, we activate and board the roller coaster. But not before Roxy can jump onto the back as well. This part would kind of take the role of an office section, only now we're stuck in the front of the coaster, having to flash Roxy with a flashlight to stop her from reaching us as she crawls along the carts behind us. Meanwhile, having to juggle something else. Maybe the bars didn't fully activate, we have to help Freddy hold them down during the falls and spin so we don't go flying out of the car. Roxy might have slashed some controls before jumping onto the cart after us to cause this. In the end, she goes flying off of the cart herself from a great height, allowing us passage off of the coaster. Choosing not to loot her body, Vanessa and Freddy move on. This time we make our way to the funhouse, where Bonnie resides. A beginning stealth section, which brings back Chica and Mr. Hippo in addition to Bonnie, leads us down to a hall of mirrors, where here we have a chase sequence from the trio trying to come about and trap us from various points in the maze of mirrors. Meaning we have to pay close attention to them and various context clues, such as graffiti, as to figure out which is the safe escape route. Then we get out and have another Freddy Brawl sequence. This time, we've got more armor, which is good because our opponent, Bonnie, is a lot stronger than the boss Endo. We're able to clonk him sideways, perhaps knocking his arm off during it. Freddy and Vanessa take it and run, and then find a way to attach it in downtime between this and Chapter 5. Perhaps by returning to the now suspiciously empty Endo area from before. And Freddy now has a third arm on his back to assist in battles and whatnot. So by this point, chaos has spread through the animatronics ranks. They need you gone, and in a bid to get rid of you by any means, they release Foxy into the park. This means from now on, Foxy will be hunting you from across the park, usually following close behind in the linear set piece segments. So you've always got to be on your toes. To introduce this, Chapter 5 sees you exploring an abandoned haunted house area of the park with Foxy tailing you. You've got to navigate through it using Freddy to open paths while avoiding Foxy's gaze. He's got one of the tougher to escape jump scares, making him a much scarier threat than earlier. Eventually, you find a camera upgrade for Freddy that not only unlocks a full usable in-game camera, but also a flash that can be used to light up dark areas where Endos might be lurking, and to stun Foxy, temporarily making him more manageable. I could see this one ending in a chase leading to a dark ride that, similar to the coaster, acts as an office section. Here you're on a slow-moving track in a dark enclosed space. You've got not only Foxy trying to get at you, but also Endos hiding out. Guess this is where they got off to, having spread across the park. Since it's pitch black, all you can do is go off audio cues and the occasional silhouette of movement to flash in that area to stun Foxy and the Endos for long enough for the car you are in to move to the next area. Once you finally finish this, you escape with the promise of meeting with Foxy again very soon. Things are starting to heat up. It's been a few hours and the duo are starting to look worse for wear. But still with no signs of a mimic. Gregory says he thinks he's found it this time, however, and directs you to enter the entertainment area. A massive outdoor arcade and disco, filled not only with arcade machines, but also tons of those claw machines and other kinds of arcade junk you use to collect tickets, just to make it feel distinct from the Pizzaplex one. Something that is similar, however, is the massive figure of the DJ, pulled over from that very location. The only glam rock animatronic to be recycled due to his size and cost, albeit with a new paint job fitting of the new location. In this section, you've got to evade Chica, Hippo, Foxy, and Bonnie, who's now only one-handed, making him very cross with you. Here we'll start with a brawl sequence this time against Foxy, where you damage him so bad his eyes are shattered along with his hook being thrown off which you take, removing the one weakness he had against the camera. Foxy's taken out for the time being at least, but this just causes Bonnie to use his one good arm to activate the DJ security mode, resulting in a massive chase scene where you must run from him in a large outdoor environment, albeit still in a linear path. At the start of the chase scene, however, Mr. Hippo is damaged by the rampaging DJ. Eventually, you make your way into the indoor arcade area where he cannot get to you. Here you've got a moment of silence where you add Foxy's hook onto Freddy's third arm, giving it an extra scorpion-like attack. One that's going to come in handy, as now you've got Mr. Hippo and Chica coming up against you. To your luck, however, they aren't exactly working together. Now that it's just the three of you away from the prying eyes of the other animatronics, it's here where Chica will actually turn to help you and assist in definitively destroying Mr. Hippo. Using all that built-up rage and anger, Chica will pull Monty and kill off another animatronic. She'll then go a step further and assist you by opening the way forward, as at this point she might as well help you take down the animatronic squad here. Chica will then input some security codes into the nearby door, opening up a path forward into the main carnival stage tent, which itself leads down into the depths where Gregory's pointing us towards. Chica also gives us a flashlight, which we can use as Vanessa, and stays behind, promising the greatest against soon as we enter. Unlike with past chapters, there's no downtime here. Instead, we start this chapter right after ending the prior chapter. To compensate, this one starts with a fairly quiet sequence of all of us exploring the dark area with the flashlight.
What just happened? Get the flashlight!
This gives our characters time to think and reflect on what just happened, and time for the player to calm down a bit before we enter our first big stealth sequence with Foxy, Roxy, and Bonnie all searching for us. Meanwhile, Endos will be patrolling certain spots. Rather than always knowing our location, they will sort of act as an in-between to the security drones from Security Breach here, albeit much less frequently since they can actually kill you on their own, and still with their easy-to-halt nature as long as you shine your flashlight on them or use the camera. The stealth section will go on for some time before we finally come face to face with Freddy himself. We start with a brawl section, Freddy on Freddy, but this fight is actually going to be scripted in a way where you kind of lose. Glamfred, as we're going to call him now to avoid confusion, and Vanessa flee, leading to a massive chase scene where every surviving hostile animatronic joins into the big horde. Think a more fleshed out and a bombastic version of the first chase scene from Security Breach where different animatronics come in to cut us off at various points. We even get a small section of DJ attempting to grab at us by tearing through the weaker part of the tent. Finally, we make our way up on the stage where we have to sort of defend ourselves while Chica works to open up the trapdoor elevator below us. This sort of acts as another office section, albeit on a much bigger and macro scale, since we're on the stage. We'll use various means from Freddy to our flashlight to prevent the animatronics from getting to us. Finally, the doors opened and we descend, leaving behind everything above. Maybe we see the other animatronics finally get to and tear our Chica apart, presumably killing her for betraying them. Descending down deep, deep, and deeper still, eventually you arrive in a starkly different location than what we've seen up until this point. Cold stone walls, thick concrete. This isn't somewhere meant for the viewing eyes of the public. Inspired by myths and legends that Walt Disney World houses some dark secret in the tunnels beneath itself. I'm just gonna nab that idea and say, yeah, you found him. And the Mimic has found you. You see, one of the prevailing theories your characters had up until this point was wrong. The Mimic was never captured by Fazbear Entertainment. No, in fact, he's not trapped at all. But now you are, in his domain. Its hacking abilities are displayed more prominently when other animatronics are here, just they aren't really feeling themselves. Not mind control, mind you, but instead the Mimic is literally puppeteering these robotic shells, proven by him using a severely damaged version of Mr. Hippo's corpse as well, who is now significantly more damaged, as is anyone else you encounter. No longer does he just mimic, he commands. We reach an office section, which is actually set in a single office this time. Cobwebs tell you that whatever this facility was built for, it has long since been abandoned. Throughout it, you are attacked by various puppeteered animatronics who go to any lengths to get at you, even tearing themselves apart to squeeze into vent areas. I have this visual in my head of Chica turning into this mangle-like abomination just to get at you. Maybe even taking elements away from other animatronics midway through to make a proper mangle. A new tangle, the whatever I want to call it. By the end of the section, they end up breaking in anyway, but after giving enough time for whatever process you were running to allow for an exit to open up deeper into the facility. Picture that one room from Security Breach with the walkways over the void and those big tanks. I picture a brawl sequence, Freddy vs. Scrapomination, and eventually you win, not by brute force, but just by knocking it over into the pit, where it falls screeching into the void. Maybe halfway through falling, the voices change from the puppeteered mind-controlled versions into their normal ones, as if the Mimic let them regain their minds only to see their fastly encroaching demise for their last moments of life. A moment of silence after this. Are you safe? But then Freddy begins to freak out a bit, his head jerking side to side, his eyes glowing an unnatural purple. Finally, he himself is possessed. The beast you've been building up this entire game turned on you. The very idea that Security Breach very much so should have had, and probably would have had, this would make for a big climactic chase scene, where in the end, we end up inside a familiar room housing a big scooper. Freddy tries fighting for control. Again, this isn't necessarily mind control, but rather just controlling elements of the body. Maybe he lets slip the voice box or the third arm. Very jerry-rigged on there with these brief spurts of control, Freddy's able to try and stop himself. Freddy's able to give us long enough to utilize the scooper not to kill Freddy, but instead to remove his head from the body, returning him to a state he was in at the beginning of the game, albeit out cold. Eventually, we find ourselves trapped in another office section. This will serve as the final boss of sorts, stuck in the scooper room with what looks like pieces of the Mimic's old body from ruin. Think the one office sequence from Sister Location, where you're stuck fighting off against Ennard. As Vanessa attempts to hastily reconstruct a version of Freddy using the Mimic parts, you have to fend off the Mimic, who is using the abilities of everyone else now, Freddy included, to attack. We learn he's been upgrading himself to be much more flexible in his transformations, building himself up in a similar manner to the endoskeletons from Sister Location, able to snake his bits and bobs around to reform himself. He doesn't necessarily morph into these forms, rather taking on direct attributes of them, such as Foxy's hook or Bonnie's fists. Maybe even tries to use the audio lures on you, where you have to keep an ear out for one sound, but he'll muffle it up with other junk too. Eventually, you successfully rebuild a very scrappy version of Freddy, and we get the final brawl sequence where Freddy faces off against the Mimic. In another twist, the amalgamated Scrapomination returns, clawing its way up from the depths from whence it fell, an enraged creature taking cues from the blob in its destructive quest upwards. As it joins the fight, Vanessa is blocked off from Freddy and forced to flee the collapsing structure. Think that sequence from the end of Ocarina of Time where you have to flee the collapsing Ganon's tower. Eventually, you reach the elevator you entered and continue your escape in the overworld, trying to just desperately get to the entrance, as the ground below you is collapsing inward into a massive sinkhole. Maybe in this sequence you even have DJ Music Man coming at you one final time before falling into the pit himself. Eventually, you reach the elevator you entered from and barely escape, back up into the main area of the park. The game ends with a montage of the rubble being searched by authorities. We see that Music Man in the background is seemingly shut down and surrounded by cops as well. We see the destroyed Music Man, his arms sticking up from the rubble, almost like something out of a zombie movie. However, with all the searching that the authorities do, we find no signs of either the Mimic or Glamrock Freddy. But they do find the mangled remains of the Scrapomination, finally at what we can only hope is some form of peace. This leaves the door open for another game at some point in this Mimic saga, if you will. Okay, so now is this plot perfect? Oh god, of course not, no. For starters, how on earth is half this stuff even gonna work? No, it's a pipe dream pitch. And even then, a lot of it was just kind of coming up with stuff in the spot. I mean, I'm not a professional writer. This is just a set of cool concepts that sound cool on paper, and Lord knows how they'd come out in actual, gameplay. Some cool ideas thrown together into a blender along with some prayers and a buttload of copium. Even then, this is a very much so my dream game. I'm sure elements like leaning into the sci-fi approach or not having any good guy animatronics from the inside might turn off specific people. And you know what? That's fine. We've each got our own dream pitch for a video game entry in a series we love. This is just mine for FNAF. And if you've got one of your own, then put it down below, because I want to hear it. And of course, logistically, this will never happen. Security Breach was a prime example of what happens when a game gets too overambitious for its own good. This idea was brewed up while I was in the shower one day, and I thought, that'd be neat. It's not made with sustainability in mind, which is why you're watching this as a YouTube video and not playing it as a full release. FNAF as a franchise has proven it can be many things, and I wanted to tap into as many of those elements of this long and storied franchise as I could. I threw in some open world elements, some Security Breach elements, mixed it in with some dashes of linearity like in Ruin, as well as plenty of very classic like office segments, because I kinda miss those. Threw in lots of references like Foxy still being weak to a flashlight like in FNAF 2, or Foxy being locked up for some sort of incident he caused in the past like in FNAF 1. Can you tell I like Foxy? I wanted to do more with that sci-fi approach that FNAF has been taking of late, because I do think there is some proper potential here. But also not to abandon the scary roots of the franchise, hence why I made all the animatronics outwardly antagonistic. I've worked at a theme park before, and walking through the empty and creepy premises of it at night after closing had been something I've longed to relive in a horror game. So part of the inspiration for the setting came from my own personal experience on that front. But let's look realistic for a second. What is likely to be the approach we see in the next FNAF game? Well, I don't think a circus or theme park setting is out of the question, and if it does happen, then you heard it here first, folks. But with stuff like the Moon minigame and Help Wanted 2, they do tease us with carnival imagery, and it's one of the obvious choices they haven't done yet. So I think that will happen eventually, if not in the next game. As for gameplay-wise, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever see a full return to the Security Breach style. At least not until it becomes nostalgic and gets brought back in like a decade, which, I mean, is probably inevitable. I do think Ruin serves as a good idea of what to expect going forward, alongside likely more VR titles. I think those will be the two styles of gameplay we'll see going forward, with them kind of hopping between each style with each game. So if you were looking for Punch-Out starring Mr. Hippo, then I'm sorry to say it, but that may not be as close as we might want. But I will tell you what we will see in the next game. Trash Gang, baby! They're back! Can't keep the Trash Gang down. They come into the ring and they start throwing garbage. Yeah!